Legacy Award for the one man who has fought for our freedoms on Capitol Hill for over 3 decades. And I think I speak for everyone here when I say thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you for inspiring us to hold to our principles, showing us what it means to fight for what is true and just, even when we may feel alone and the situation seems hopeless. If you didn't stick to your principles, if you gave up decades ago, when you were the only one on Capitol Hill defending the Constitution, we wouldn't be here today. Your career and voting record is unmatched, and for that we are extraordinarily grateful. These young leaders are here today are the fruits of your hard work and the commitment to liberty for all these years. Also, I want to personally thank you for my career, my political beliefs, and most importantly for introducing me to my wife. Some of you may know my story, but I was fortunate to be Congressman Paul's intern the summer of 2005, and it was during that summer that I had the privilege of meeting a beautiful and smart woman working as Representative Paul's staff assistant. After my internship, we started dating, and in about a week and a half, we are going to celebrate our 3rd wedding anniversary. What you inspired here with Young Americans for Liberty, I want to thank you. Thank you for the enormous impact you've had on my life. And so for your service in the military fighting for enemies abroad, and for the decades of service in Congress fighting enemies domestically, I'm tremendously honored to present you with the first ever Ron Paul Legacy Award.
All right!
To be here. Every year I have come, each time the crowd gets bigger, more young people all the time, just as it has been on the campuses. Campuses did quite well for the cause of liberty this year, so I was very, very pleased. But certainly Jeff deserves a lot of credit for what's been going on with your organization as well as the whole effort in the cause of liberty. And I have been fascinated. Everybody knows that it just seems like the young people are very open to the ideas of liberty, and it delights me. Thank you very much. It also takes a lot of work and effort, and Young Americans for Liberty certainly has made their mark, and that to me is great because that's going to continue to grow, and I will be very much involved. At least I'm looking next year. I believe my schedule is going to be more my own schedule, and I will not have to be at certain places at certain times for all kinds of events. But you know, the legislative session isn't over, but you probably do know that we had a little vote today in the House of Representatives.
Yeah! Woo! And the Fed! And the Fed! And the Fed! And the Fed!
I've always argued that once the Fed gets audited, the Fed will end. We have a few hurdles yet. One will be to get the Senate to pass it. But somebody in the press today asked me, well, is the Senate going to vote on it? And I said, well, I don't know. But I do know one thing, that if they do vote, we're going to win the vote. Because the people in this country, thanks to your help and the help of many organizations, Campaign for Liberty and all, the country knows about it, and the Fed is a big issue. If they did have an up and down honest vote in the Senate right now, I'm convinced that the majority would vote for it. Getting the vote up is another story, but we'll be working on that, as I'm sure you will too. But that is the effort, and eventually we'll have to deal with the subject of monetary policy. And the Fed has to be very much on our minds. We have to understand it. We have to know the issues and know the arguments. The vote today, I worried a little bit that, getting 2/3 of the vote because it was under suspension might be difficult. All the Republicans except one, voted for the bill. And the Democrats essentially split. There were 89 that voted against it and then 80-some that voted for it. So that's pretty good. And I have always argued that the issue of money and the issue of the Federal Reserve is not a Republican or Democratic issue. And I've always argued the cause of liberty is and needs to be a bipartisan issue. People should come together on certain issues of individual freedom. And I think we've proved this point, with this vote today, that it's very bipartisan. And the Democrats didn't go away quietly because they campaigned very hard. They spoke out strongly against it. Their leader, Hoyer, came down and spoke against it. And they whipped the bill, which meant they put all kinds of pressure because they wanted to try to embarrass us and also to protect the Federal Reserve. But they failed, and that shows that, that the effort at the grassroots level has been very important. Governments, generally speaking, reflect the people's attitudes. And you as a generation, if you have certain attitudes about liberty, believe me, the government's going to reflect your attitudes. Right now we're in transition, and also it takes time. Just because we have the ideas, and ideas are important, and ideas are spread, and a minority of individuals can spread ideas, but eventually a majority opinion, the prevailing attitude, has to represent something. And when it does it, it's bad. It has bad government. And it's been bad for a long time. And we've had a lot of bad government for a lot of years. But now you're witnessing and participating in a shift in attitudes. And a lot of people will get frustrated. And they'll say to me, you've been up there a long time. Why didn't you get this done sooner? But let me tell you, there's been a lot of changes made in the last 5 years because attitudes are changing right now. And don't get frustrated because you think, well, ideas are important. We have a small group. We're spreading ideas. Ideas are spreading. And then all of a sudden you see, well, the majority now support us. You might take some of the polls now show that it's time we quit all this overseas war and bring our troops home.
Woo! All right.
Well, the Congress hasn't reflected those views. So they're not instantaneous, but the most important is to have people, small groups of people, study and understanding and know what the issues are and understanding the principles, and these ideas have to be carried through, and then they have to be made palatable and understandable to the large majority, and then you see that a reflection in government. This is not only true in a government where the voting is. Sometimes I think that this voting system here is a bit frustrating at times, but even under dictatorships, if the majority of the people reject the government, eventually those dictators are overthrown. Even when they had kings and pharaohs at times, that would eventually change. But we're in the middle of this, and it's going to be moving more rapidly. These last 5 years, since 07, 08, things have been moving much more rapidly. The awareness of monetary policy and the Federal Reserve, and now we have shifted from not caring about the war and Congress overwhelmingly supporting the war and allowing the president to go to war. We now have the majority of the American people that want something different. So this is where we're making the progress, and this is why what you do as young people and the influence as you move out and get different jobs of influence, whether you're teachers or writers or in politics or whatever, this is crucial. And this is where I have the most optimism, because there are hundreds here tonight, but literally I have met thousands and tens of thousands. And Jeff, not too long ago, did a summary. And I don't think I'll remember these numbers specifically, but I think we went to about 33 campuses and over 120,000 young people came out for these. That to me means there is a revolution going on in this country.
Yeah! All right!
You're in the middle of this. You're leading the charge. You're instrumental people.